Hey friends, welcome back. It's Not Your Therapist, the podcast where we're getting real about life's mess, magic, and everything in between. Today, I want to tackle an important topic, gaslighting in relationships. I hear it a lot. It's kind of becoming a buzzword right now. So I want to talk about what it actually is versus what it's not. A lot of you are probably experiencing this in your work environment or your relationships or your friendships or maybe even in-laws. I see a lot of this when there are blended families. So it's really good to get a handle of what it is so that you can stop the crazy making. It really does make you feel like your head's spinning. This is a good emotional manipulation tactic to understand well so that you don't fall into the trap. Specifically, we're going to talk about what to do when someone you love, someone who's supposed to be supporting you, makes you feel like you're overreacting or you're too sensitive. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's a gut punch, and that's what we're talking about today. So by the end of this episode, you'll know exactly what it looks like, what it is, why it happens, and most importantly, how to handle it without losing yourself in the process. Let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome to Not Your Therapist, the no BS podcast where I ditch the therapy couch and get real about life, love, work, and all the messy in-betweens. I'm Kayla Riley, a licensed therapist and founder of a group practice that now runs without me, giving me freedom to spend more time with my littles and to share the secrets of wellness I've learned with people like you. This isn't therapy. It's your go-to for real talk, practical tips, and the occasional truth bomb to help you thrive. And the best part? No diagnosis, no insurance company constraints. I get to take off the white gloves and tell it like it is because I'm not your therapist. If you're ready to break free from unhealthy patterns, navigate the messiness of life with more ease, and uncover the magic in your everyday moments, you're in the right place. Welcome to your healing era, friends. Let's do this. Okay, let's start with the basics. Gaslighting is a form of emotional manipulation where someone makes you doubt your own reality. It's not just a buzzword, it's very real and a really harmful dynamic. So in relationships, gaslighting might sound like, you're too sensitive, or that never happened, or it didn't happen that way, or you're remembering that wrong. The one that stands out to me the most is when someone says, I was just kidding. That one drives me crazy because there's nothing that's going to make me distrust my own hurt feelings than wondering if that person was joking and should I say something? They were just kidding. Maybe I am too sensitive. You're starting to see the pattern here. Gaslighting is all about someone distrusting their own feelings and even falling into the trap of invalidating your own feelings. So if you feel like you're in a relationship, maybe with your mother-in-law, maybe with your dad, maybe with your partner, maybe with, a friend or a boss, and you feel like you're wondering if you should stand up for yourself, but maybe not, I don't know, I don't think so, you might be caught in a relationship where gaslighting is present. So these phrases that are classic gaslighting phrases. You're too sensitive. That never happened. I was just kidding. You're remembering it wrong. These phrases are designed to make you question yourself. And the result, you feel crazy. Like you can't trust your own thoughts. You can't trust your own feelings. It's really freaking exhausting. And it can leave you trapped in this cycle of self-doubt, which is how the cycle perpetuates. So if you want to know if you're in a relationship where gaslighting is present or being used on you, and I say that lightly because some of it's intentional and sometimes it's not intentional, it's a defense mechanism. We're going to talk about that a little later, so stay tuned. Here are some common signs. If you feel like you're constantly second guessing yourself, or if you feel like you're walking on eggshells around this person to avoid conflict because you know that you're going to be invalidated or you're going to feel very small, if your partner or whoever this person is dismisses your feelings or maybe calls you crazy, or you start having the urge to write everything down so that the next time you argue or when you argue, you can prove to them this is what happened. Those are all big red flags that gaslighting is present. If any of it resonates, I want you to know that it is not your fault. This is a powerful emotional manipulation tool. And gaslighting really is about the other person's need for control. It's not a reflection of your worth or your sanity, even though it starts making you feel that way. Let's talk a little bit about why people gaslight in the first place. This can be tricky because it's not always malicious. Sometimes people gaslight as a defense mechanism to avoid accountability, or because they learned these patterns in their own past relationships or while they were being raised. So that said, intent does not erase the impact, obviously. In some cases, gaslighting is about power and control. This is people who more so are doing it intentionally. They're really wanting that power and control. It makes them feel big because inside they're probably feeling really small. Just saying. So if you're questioning yourself, the other person's feeling like, hey, I'm in the driver's seat. I'm in control, right? Now, understanding this does not excuse the behavior, but it can help you approach the situation with more clarity, which is really powerful for you. Understanding someone else's behavior helps you let it go. It's not about understanding their behavior so that you can go like Dr. Phil and explain to them why they're an asshole. I think a lot of people do that when they come to therapy and the therapist is explaining to them like, oh, that sounds like gaslighting, or that sounds like projection, or that sounds like there are lots of different emotional manipulation tactics. Maybe I should do an episode on that. All the manipulation tactics so people can become aware. Anyways, that sounds like a good one. So when a client hears that, sometimes people weaponize their healing. So what I mean by that is if you read a self-help book, or you read an article, or you see a reel that explains some kind of psychology concept or dynamic or skill or, communication pattern, and then you weaponize it, you go to the other person and you utilize it as bullets in the gun, as arsenal to prove to them that they're the one that's fucked up. That's not you healing. And also, it's going to leave you feeling more powerless. People who focus on the other person feel more powerless because you're trying to control something that is not in your control. If he's not in diapers, you can't change him. If it's past your nose, it's none of your business. So focusing on what we can control actually makes us feel more powerful. How we react to situations. When we're observing someone's behavior and we see some kind of emotional manipulation, taking that as a cue to walk away. That's not about us. That's about them trying to power grab. So when we understand these concepts, it's really about gaining control, not about weaponizing health. That's a really important message, and that's a powerful one. I want you to put that in your pocket. So what do you do if you realize you're being gaslit? I just told you what not to do. Don't weaponize it. But here is more of a step-by-step breakdown on what you can do if you're caught in one of these relationships. Step 1, trust your gut. You're not overreacting. You're not super sensitive. Being sensitive is actually a good thing. If something feels off, it really probably is. So if you start journaling events, again, not to prove your point, but to prove to yourself the reality of things, to help you ground. So if you write down conversations, you write down your feelings, you write down specific details, this can help you break out of the cycle and stay grounded in your own reality. That way later, when the person is questioning you, when you're trying to express your feelings, you kind of have that piece of paper that says, okay, this is exactly what happened. All right. Step 2 is leaning on your support system. So friends, family, and a therapist or a mental health coach can really help you see the truth a lot more clearly. Gaslighting thrives on isolation, so don't go through this alone. The more that you're isolated, the easier it is to manipulate your perception. When we fact check, that's why therapy is so powerful, right? We go, we talk about things, and the therapist can reflect back to us. It's almost like a mirror. Here, do you see this? But when we don't have that mirror, we don't have somebody reflecting what we've been saying, it's a lot harder to know what we look like, right? It's like a blind person trying to feel their face and see what they look like. There's a lot of details left out in that. So you could think about therapy, or you could think about your support system in that way. They're a mirror to help you gain perspective. Although, don't talk about your problems too much to your friends and family, because you're going to push them away. So if you're going through something challenging like a breakup or whatever, don't drain your friend's energy. Go get a therapist. Find an environment that's appropriate for that processing. Okay, back to what we're talking about. Step 1, trust your gut. Write some things down if you need to. Step 2, ground yourself in reality by leaning on your support system. Now, step 3, confront the behavior. Now, this I only recommend if it's safe. To have an honest conversation with the person that's doing it, it really does need to be a safe person. If this is, let's say, a boss who clearly doesn't have any ability to have any kind of humility, or this is a partner who has lashed out violently before, please do not do this step. Skip the step. However, if it's safe, try having a conversation with your partner about the gaslighting. Don't use the word. If you use the word gaslighting, that person's going to feel criticized and they're automatically going to shut down. Here's something interesting from the Gottmans, who are famous psychologists who study relationship dynamics. They say that there's no such thing as constructive criticism. The brain takes any kind of comment about you as a criticism, period. That's really interesting to me. I think that actually empowers me. But anyways, when you go to talk to somebody, you want to use I statements. I feel dismissed when my feelings are called an overreaction. Or, hey, when we argue, I start feeling really small because I don't feel heard or I don't feel validated. Now, you are cheating if you say, I feel like you don't care about me. That's not about your feelings. That's about them. Again, that's a criticism in disguise. So try to say, I feel, and then feeling word, or experience. So here's kind of a good recipe. I feel feeling word when objective situation. I feel dismissed when my feelings are called an overreaction. See how I didn't say you? I feel dismissed when you call my feelings an overreaction. That also makes it a little bit softer, a little bit more gentle, a little bit more palatable for the other person. Be prepared for denial or defensiveness. If the gaslighting is unintentional, this real confrontation, this gentle, opening up and processing, this dialect might open up the door for change. However, maybe it won't. And again, that's not in your control. What is in your control is if you gently speak up for yourself. And it is your responsibility for how you send messages. I know some people's reaction to this is, why do I have to make my messaging more palatable for this turd? Well, here's the reality. We're responsible for how we are in the world. Say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean. You want, at the end of the day, to feel like you've done the best job to be the best person you can be. And if you're fighting emotional manipulation with aggressiveness, then you're just adding fuel to the fire. I think that's another lesson that I teach in therapy or mental health coaching with my clients that I think is hard to accept. So I'm really careful about pushing that, because a lot of times people come to therapy feeling victimized, so their defense mechanisms are aggressive, and then they're wondering why there's no change. Well, you're putting sticks in the fire. It's going to keep burning, baby. So just, be mindful. If you're feeling defensive when you hear this, that might be what's going on for you. Now, because gaslighting can be such a defense, I recommend writing a letter to your partner about your feelings so that you can really take your time to explore what you want to say. And if you give the letter, you're giving your partner a beat or a breath to fight their natural defense mechanisms. Whoosh, the defense mechanisms go up. You want them to have a moment for those to go down, and maybe they'll reread the letter, or maybe they'll take 20 minutes to calm down. So giving somebody a letter when you write to them something that's a conflict conversation or a confrontational conversation, you want to make sure you give them the letter and make sure that you're not present. Go have coffee or drop it before you go to work during the day or something like that. That way there's time and space for this person to process and have a little bit of space. Now, you don't always have to give the letter. Sometimes writing the letter to your partner about your feelings is just a good opportunity to collect your thoughts. Maybe you don't give it to them at all. Maybe it's just a good opportunity to collect what you're going to say. For some people, when they are faced with a confrontational conversation or a conversation where they're having to assert themselves, it can be really anxiety provoking, really stressful. So for people like that, I really do invite them to write this letter. That way they can bring it with them when they have this conversation. Maybe they're reading it. It just really helps with your confidence and helps you if you're the kind of person whose brain starts to shut down when you're having conflict conversations. If you haven't already listened to some of my previous episodes, the one I'm thinking of is episode 1, anxiety. I talk about the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism, and that can explain what's going on with you if you're one of those people who hates confrontation and you shut down, you can't think of what to say. Definitely go listen to the anxiety episode because there is a reason, a brain science reason why this is hard for you. Okay, let's move on. Step 1, trust your gut. Maybe write down what's going on. Step 2, ground yourself in reality. Lean on your support system. Step 3, confront the behavior if it's safe or write a letter. Step 4, set boundaries. Protecting your mental health is not a negotiable thing in this life. Your mental health is just as valuable as your physical health. In fact, your mental health is connected to your physical health. If you have back problems, if you have chronic issues, if you have bowel movement issues, if you have, I'm trying to think of all the other ones, but a lot of these things are tied to mental health. There's a lot of science coming out, and psychology is still relatively a new field, but there's a lot of evidence coming out that psychosomatic symptoms are real. So by being healthy mentally, you're healthy physically, and by being healthy physically, you are helping your mental health. Wah! I mean, it makes sense. It's common sense, really, that everything is connected, but sometimes we just need that reminder. Everything is connected. So protect your health, your mental health, like you do anything else. You protect your body. I hope you do. Wear your helmets. Helmets are cool now. I love that safety is becoming cool because helmets used to be silly. And everyone thought they were so uncool. Well, now I just went skiing on a ski mountain with my family on vacation last week. My mom came and watched the kids so my husband and I could go skiing. And if you have had little children in the winter, you understand how powerful it is to get the heck away from them and do something fun every once in a while, because my kids have been sick back to back to back, RSV, double ear infections. Oh, I needed some space. So anyways, we went skiing. Everybody was wearing helmets, and I was like, oh, should we rent helmets? And the lady behind us who had children, she was like our age. She's like, heck yeah, helmets are cool. Safety is what's up. I was like, oh, that is so nice. What a good shift. All right, so back to protecting your mental health and having some boundaries. I'm going to teach you this really easy boundary strategy. called one-liners. Now, one-liners are powerful because you can memorize them and use them over and over and over, so you don't have to think when you're stressed. When your fight, flight, or freeze system is up, you don't have to think too much to just use a one-liner that you practice over and over. It can help break the chain of behavior that partners tend to get caught in. So if you're married, if you're in a long-term relationship, you know that we end up having the same arguments over and over and over and over and over again. And a lot of that is because we are contributing to it. Our defenses, even though the person is using something that's inappropriate, when we defend ourselves, a lot of times we're doing it wrong and we're adding fuel to the fire. So let's think about breaking the chain and let's start to use one-liners. Now, here are some powerful one-liners that I think you can use. You can write your own, but here's some examples. I'm not going to argue about what I know to be true. Or, I need space to process my feelings without being invalidated. See how those are assertive but not aggressive? Remember that when you're using one-liners, if you do become sarcastic or nasty, I'm not going to argue about what I said to be true. I'm not right. Like if you're sassy with it and spicy, again, you're adding fuel to the fire. However, if you say things calmly and assertively and strongly, you are going to disrupt the pattern and maybe even give your partner a chance to take some accountability. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Again, not in your realm of control. However, think about how powerful this sounds. I'm not going to argue about something I know to be true. Boom, your feelings are true. All right, so there you go. There's a little easy strategy about setting boundaries. Now, step 5 is knowing when to walk away. Sometimes the healthiest choice is leaving a relationship. This isn't easy, but staying in a gaslighting dynamic can really erode your self-worth over time. You deserve better than that. It takes courage and self-love, and most importantly, support from others. So if you've tried all these things over and over and over again, and you've tried therapy and you've tried mental health coaching and you've tried reading the self-help books and you've tried all of these things and nothing is changing, let me tell you this, nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you feel stuck and you're just waiting for things to change, they might not. The healthiest choice can be leaving a relationship. And I know this is challenging, but most importantly, support from others can help you with this step if this is where you're at. If you've experienced gaslighting, healing takes time. However, time does not heal all wounds. If you are healing from a gaslighting experience, you may need to rebuild trust in yourself, trust in your own emotional experience, trust in your own perspective. Therapy and mental health coaching can be a game changer here, helping you process the experience and learn to recognize healthy communication patterns so that you're not attracted to another relationship where you're just going to fall into the same patterns. If you haven't already, read Getting the Love You Want. It's so powerful about how we're attracted to comfortable types of love, familiar types of love. And if you don't do the healing work, and remember, healing's freaking hard, but it's just not going to happen overnight. It's not just going to happen with time. It happens with effort. So you're not broken. You are trying to break out of cycles and rewrite how you're going to be in relationships. And this experience does not define you. You do have the strength to move forward. You just have to take the steps to get there. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for hanging out with me and exploring this topic. Gaslighting can feel like a labyrinth, but with the right tools and support from other people, you can find your way out. Trust yourself, protect your peace, and don't be afraid to reach out for help if you need it. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend who might need to hear it. It really helps me serve more people. And don't forget to check out my free audio training, Get Unstuck, 3 strategies to help breaking unhealthy patterns. You can get it over on my website, KaylaRiley.com, or check me out on social media, notyourtherapist.kayla. This training's packed with actionable tips, and it really takes a deeper dive into some of the things we've talked about today. So until next time, take care of yourself and remember that you're stronger and more capable than you think. I'll see you soon. And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with me on Not Your Therapist. If you're ready to break free from unhealthy patterns, head over to KaylaRiley.com and grab the free Get Unstuck audio training. When you sign up, you're going to become an NYT insider with access to exclusive freebies, behind the scenes content, and my most badass gems reserved just for you. And hey, if you're loving the show, the best way to support me is by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with a friend. Together, we can help more people manage life's mess, magic, and everything in between. Remember that success is only measured by how profoundly you experience your life, so don't settle for anything less than epic. I'll see you next time.